Um, one thing I'll say is that when I look back at what happened, the one thing I wish I did less of was the drugs.
Yeah.
The drugs did not enhance things. They corrupted a lot of things, and they made a lot of memories like really far less enjoyable and colorful than they should have been. For example, I've fallen asleep in the finest restaurants in the world. I can say I got booked for a speech in next month in Monaco, right?
Yeah.
And they got a beautiful suite at the Hotel de Paris, right? And I'm like, oh yeah, I fell asleep at the Louis XIV restaurant in a bowl of soup. And it's $12,000 dinner. I can't remember it, but I remember it was $12,000, and I felt my wife had to pick my head up out of the frickin' soup, right? Yeah. So that was the story of my life. So that aspect, I look back and say, I wish I could have, done things differently with the drugs.
I want to back up to something you said before about the government, because it was making me think of Wolf of Wall Street. So the thing about the movie, the movie's so freaking brilliant. I won't make you talk about it because you've talked about it a bajillion times. But you're the hero of the movie, obviously, and yet you're also doing some illegal shit. You're doing some immoral shit, right, or however you want to describe it. But you hate the feds more. You hate the people going after you more. And they're supposed to be the good guys in this, right? Because you're doing stuff with the penny stocks or whatever it is. And that, I think, sort of captures what you said about the government before. They've done so much stuff now that it's sort of like The Sopranos. You're never rooting against Tony. He's killing people, and you're still rooting for him. Does that tell you something about how backwards everything is in an odd way?
Oh, I think that the lines of right and wrong morality have been very much blurred. I think people just realize, for example, it's just my case specifically. People know that what I did was nothing compared to what they did at Goldman Sachs and Merrill Lynch. And these guys bankrupted Iceland and Greece. It almost took down the entire world economy. And no one went to jail. At least I went to jail for a couple of years and did my time, and I had to pay the price and I had to rebuild my life. That was 1,000 times worse. Doesn't mean that what I did was right, but people also saw this sort of, I think people like almost the tortured soul type. You're watching me walk off the edge. Why you stop? Don't do it. So I think people see there was goodness in me, there was misguidedness in me, and I think people like that complexity, and you can root for someone who I think you feel genuinely they're almost their own worst enemy. They're not killing people. And even, by the way, with Tony, it's Tony, you can root for Tony too. But in this case, I'm not killing people, but you're saying, why? And I think people can see themselves in a lot of the characters in that type of movie. And that's Scorsese's brilliance, by the way. He doesn't moralize. He just puts characters up that are actually real and complex. And you're watching good people do bad things and people that are terrible people do good things.
When you look back on all that, are you just even when you post pictures a lot of times on Instagram, you'll post pictures of what you were doing back then, 30 years ago, what you were actually doing. Are you man, that was just freaking great. Even how long were you in jail for?
22 months. So,
all right,
it wasn't a terrible jail.
A little more than Jesse Smollett, but
yeah. Oh God Almighty, another character in that, right? One thing I'll say is that when I look back at what happened, the one thing I wish I did less of was the drugs.
Yeah.
The drugs did not enhance things. They corrupted a lot of things, and they made a lot of memories really far less enjoyable and colorful than they should have been. For example, I've fallen asleep in the finest restaurants in the world. I can say I got booked for a speech in next month in Monaco, right?
Yeah.
And they got a beautiful suite at the Hotel de Paris, right? And I'm like, oh yeah, I fell asleep at the Louis XIV restaurant in a bowl of soup. And it was $12,000 dinner. I can't remember it, but I remember it was $12,000, and I felt my wife had to pick my head up out of the frickin' soup, right? Yeah. So that was the story of my life. So that aspect, I look back and say, I wish I could have, done things differently with the drugs. But other than that, when I look at it, I wouldn't change anything because it was what got me to this point in my life. Obviously, I made some mistakes. I had a lot of fun, did a lot of things right as well. But I think looking back at your life and trying to say, I shouldn't have done that, I don't think it's healthy.
What do you think kept you going like that? You're not broken now. You're so thriving. It's every time I'm around you, and everyone knows it. You're infectious with your energy. This is exactly who you are off camera. You just freaking love life. How did you ever get to a point where you were starting to break or anything like that?
Yeah, of course I did. I think that, the worst part was before I went to jail. It's like you're dying in slow motion, and that's like where you can't,
Because you know you're going.
and you
right?
can't restart your life, and it's like it's like it was like I lived in the big house still. They hadn't taken. It's like Rome the falling empire of Rome. Like if you're watching the house collapse or everything collapse around me, right? For me, the amount of pride that I took in rebuilding my life ethically, I can't tell you like what that meant to me. To go out and prove to myself, to my children, that was really not the world, to my children, that I would just go out right again and just do things so straight as an arrow and empower people all over the world and make even more money. And like to me, that was like, and that just like was like something that just kept me going in the early days, and it just snowballed and fed in itself and fed in itself. Yeah, my life today is far better than it ever was back in the craziest times of Stratton.
Yeah, that's got to be a crazy retraining, right? To try to do things fully on the up and up. We were going to try to do something, and I have a feeling we'll do something in the future. But even when we were in a little negotiations and then things just moved too fast, you were basically like, just give me something and I'll make it work. Like you didn't want to negotiate. You were just like, let's make it nice and easy. And then things just happened to move along in a different way. But like, was that a real shift for you? Like how you're going to do business? Like actually how you're going to engage in that?
So, yes and no. I think one of the lessons I learned was that if you're a really good negotiator, right, and you negotiate a deal where it's so great for you and bad for the other people, that's not a good negotiation. Yeah. It just ends up in a lawsuit, aka Steve Madden's shoes. Like when Steve came to me, he was very young, he was naive, and I took his company from him legally, and I took 85% because he didn't know better, and all I did was create animosity down the road. So I don't think a great negotiation is when you get such a good deal that you fuck everyone else over. And also just like, I just refuse to cut corners. Like in my life, my value system right now is it's just based on creating value for people. So there's a reason why I haven't, why didn't you launch any NFTs yet? There's a reason why I haven't launched NFTs, because I'm not sure if the market is ready. And I don't know, I'll make a quick 10 million, but probably the people who buy them might lose a quick 7 million. So I didn't do it. I would love to have the extra money, but I have enough money. I'm not gonna engage in transactions or any business practices that I'm not giving more value than I receive. And frankly, I've ended up making more money because of that. It's my greed shows me, if I'm greedy, that means do that. Give people more value because you make more in the long run.
When you see these insane policies of just printing money and then Biden comes out, inflation has nothing to do with printing money and it's not our fault, blah, blah. Like as a guy who understands business, you want to punch the screen or what?
Yeah, so Biden's an idiot. I mean, and I think everyone knows that. But he's not even, he's a puppet.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like the movie's so bad, like it's like Dave. We're like, let's find, where can we find someone so stupid and so malleable and just he's so much of a puppet? They're like, here we go, right?
To be clear, you're not talking about me, Dave. There was a movie, Dave, with Klein. What's his name? Kevin Klein, thank you.
Right?
Okay, yeah, great movie, by the way.
Yeah. So Biden is a total puppet. And I think everyone knows this. He's not making any decisions, right? And he says stuff that it's idiotic. It's like patently false. And anyone that knows the first thing about money and economics and the way the world works, like, what? It's just silliness. And I'm not quite sure why he says it. I would think that people would coach him better.
If you're looking for more honest and thoughtful conversations about lifestyles instead of nonstop yelling, check out our lifestyle playlist. And if you want to watch full interviews on a variety of topics, check out our full episode playlist. They're both right over here. And to get notified of all future videos, be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell.